Our guest today is Candace Opper. She is a writer, a mother, and a visual artist, and she is the author of a book called Certain and Impossible Events. It's an investigative memoir about the lasting impact of adolescent suicide.
As a writer, people constantly ask you, if you say you're a writer, if you're at a party or wherever you are, and people are going to ask you what you're writing about. So I got very comfortable with just talking about suicide to strangers, which was kind of a fascinating process. I think at first I stumbled around it a lot because you don't know when you're talking to someone, you don't know what their experience is. You don't know if they've suffered a loss or if they have struggled themselves or if they're coming at it with some sort of religious or spiritual background or things that influence their opinion. So I think I treated it with kid gloves. But the more I did it, the more I realized people were generally really comfortable about it. Was also expecting people would just not want to talk about it or think it was dark or think it was too morbid. And that could not be farther from the truth. I talked to so many strangers about it. Not only were they comfortable, but they had so many questions and they were so curious. So many people had these personal stories that were sometimes really close to them, but oftentimes very distant, like a second cousin or a neighbor down the street or a teacher that they hadn't talked to in 10 years. But knowing that that person died by suicide sort of paired their death with this topic in this person's brain, but they never really had a place or a reason to talk about it. And I ended up being that place, just by starting the conversation. I came away from that experience just feeling like, wow, people really are interested in this and really want to talk about it. And there just is absolutely no venue for them to do so. And so what I was trying to do with this book, I was trying to do something that sort of merged a lot of the books I'd read. Part of the research process, I just read a ton of books about suicide, and a lot of them were more scientific or sociological, and a lot of them were pretty straight kind of grief memoirs. But I really wanted something that was sort of in the middle, a memoir, but it wasn't necessarily as heavy as a more traditional grief memoir, which are often written from the perspective of people who have lost someone close to them, a spouse or a parent or a child. But I wanted to include that science too, because I think it's so fascinating. I think it's really important to understand